guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another book video. I actually was not planning on filming a video today, so my hair is kind of a mess. I didn't make my bed, nothing, but I just randomly decided that I am going to do the mid-year book tag video, which I'm late to. I'm like a month and a half late to it, but I'm still gonna do it. I did this tag last year and I've been watching everybody else's video over like the past month and a half, and I was like, you know what? It's fine if it's late. I'm just gonna do it anyway. I was actually just watching one and I was like, I'm gonna do it right now, even though I have not even filled out the questions yet. So I'm going to read over the questions and just answer them as we go along. Every time I finish a book, I take a little like screenshot of the cover and I keep it all in an album in my phone, kind of like a little trophy, because I read exclusively ebooks on my Kindle. Also, how cute is my Kindle case? This is from Left on Red Cases. Could not be cuter. But yeah, I read completely on my Kindle or I listen to audiobooks. So I don't have any like book trophies to keep around, but I do like to keep my little album of books. It's colorful and it makes me happy. This is last year's. Cute. So I'm gonna pull this up so I can reference and see what books have I read this year and pick from here. The first question is the best book so far this year. Starting off with just the hardest question. I've read a lot of books that I've really loved this year. I'm also probably gonna have multiple answers for most of these because I just can't pick one. I know you're supposed to pick one. I can't do it. First off, I have to say Remarkably Bright Creatures. This is just a like general fiction book, but I just adored it. It was like so wholesome and happy, and I loved how every little piece of the puzzle came together in the end. Also, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez is just one of my like all-time favorite authors, and this book was just so good. I loved it so much. Also, Lessons in Chemistry. This was another one that was just like so wholesome. And then Happiness for Beginners is like my favorite romance book that I've read so far this year. It just worked so well for me. It was so funny. There was so much good banter. There was so much good character development. It was just like outstanding to me. Next up is best sequel that you read so far this year. Ooh, I have a good one. Took me a minute to think of it, but actually this is like the most perfect one, which is Vow of Thieves. This is the second book in the Dance of Thieves duology. There's only two of them. Vow of Thieves was a 5-star read for me. Such a good second book in a series. Dance of Thieves I actually didn't love that much. It was just so much of the world building and like learning about everything. It was a little slow to get through, but then it was so worth it to get to Vow of Thieves. It was just so good. You already knew all of the characters, you knew everything that was going on, and it was a really, really good second book. But a runner up to that is Killman Creek. This is the second book in the Stillhouse Lake series, which is a thriller series, all on Kindle Unlimited, including the audio is on Kindle Unlimited too. Yeah, I actually only read the first two in that series, but they were both really fun, and the second one was really, really good. So suspenseful, just like kept you so hooked the whole time. A new release that you haven't read yet but want to. I feel like I have a few that I want to get to. This is going to be kind of hard to think of on the spot. The first one that comes to mind is Reckless by Elsie Silver. I think that's what it's called. The fourth in her Chestnut Springs series. I've really been loving that entire series, so I need to get to that. And then also whatever is next in the Edens series. I've only read the first three, so whatever the fourth one is, that's a new release that I have been waiting to get to and have not gotten to yet. Kind of similar, but your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and that has got to be whatever the second book in the Fourth Wing series is called. I don't know what it's called. I really should have done a little bit of preparing for this video, but whatever comes after this one, I cannot wait to read that one. I'm pretty sure it comes out in October, but this book was so good. I loved it so much more than I was expecting, and it ends on such a cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to pick up the second one. And then honestly, I can't think of any other books that I'm like waiting on to come out. Like I said, and prepare. Biggest disappointment so far this year. I feel like I've read quite a few kind of bad books this year. I have to go with Dark Notes by Pam Godwin for this one. I went into so much depth talking about all the reasons I hated this book in the reading wrap up that I read this one in. Pam Godwin wrote one of my like all-time favorite books, Sea of Ruin. And so I picked this one up totally randomly, not knowing anything about it, because I was just excited to read more books by her, and this book was horrific. You know, some people like it, so I don't want to be too harsh, but it was just not for me. It was taboo in a way that does not work for me. So yeah, that felt like my biggest disappointment, was like reading one of my favorite books ever by this author, and then reading this one, I was like, oh, yikes. Biggest surprise so far this year. This question is like a little confusing. It's like the biggest surprise that happened in a book, or like the book that you're like so surprised that you liked it as much as you did. But books that I'm surprised that I liked as much as I did is definitely the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I have been having so much fun reading the series this year. I started it at the beginning of the year. I think I've read like the first 3 or 4. They're really short, really easy to get through. I think I read the first one kind of as a joke. I just wanted to kind of read it and see what everybody was talking about, because I knew that they were like alien romances, and I was like, okay, why is everybody talking about these? And they're so fun. They are ridiculous, but they're just so entertaining and so spicy and so fun. I'm obsessed. And then also, I feel like I've just been really surprising myself this year with some of the just general fiction books that I've been reading. Last year, I read pretty much only romance and thrillers, and I never really dabbled much into general fiction books. I always thought that they were boring, and like if there was no romance and there was no sex in the book, I was like, what's the point? But I have been really loving a lot of fiction books this year, and that has been surprising for me. I think Remarkably Bright Creatures really kind of set that off for me. That and Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. Those two were just like, they hooked me so good. They were so wholesome and cozy and just like really fun reads that had nothing to do with romance or anything. So I loved those. And then also A Man Called Ove was just so good. Favorite new author this year. It doesn't have to be like a brand new author, just like a new author to you. I'm gonna go with Catherine Center. She wrote Happiness for Beginners and then also The Bodyguard. And I have every single one of her other books all on hold on my Libby app. Like I cannot wait to read more by her. I just really love her writing style. I love her characters. I love her banter. Like I've been having so much fun reading her books, and I had never read one until this year. Newest fictional crush. Definitely Jacob from yours truly. He was just like a sweet, wonderful book boyfriend. I just haven't been reading like a ton of romance books that I've been super into lately, so it's hard for me to find like a book boyfriend that I was obsessed with. Jacob is really the only one I can think of. Although I did like the guy in Happiness for Beginners also. I can't remember his name. It's already erased from my brain. Newest favorite character. Okay, I'm gonna say B from Stone Cold Fox. This book is about a con artist basically who is trying to marry her way into this really super wealthy old money family. Being inside of her head was so fun because she was just so mean and so funny and just like such a villain. But I love reading a book where you're like rooting for the bad guy, and she totally is like the bad guy in this book. But like her thoughts and her internal dialogue was just so funny, had me laughing out loud. She was like so judgy and so mean to like all the people around her in her head, and I don't know, she was just a really fun character to read about. Also Elizabeth Zott from Lessons in Chemistry. She was just such a amazing character. I loved how she just took no shit from anybody. She did what she wanted without a care in the world, and you're just rooting for her so hard the whole book. I loved her character. She's definitely up there for sure. A book that made you cry. I haven't had a ton of books that made me cry this year, mostly because I've been actively avoiding like sad, devastating books like that. I read a few like really sad, devastating cancer books last year, and like I just don't have the mental capacity for that in my life. If you don't watch my like vlogs and stuff, I have health anxiety, and like reading any sort of book that is about death and dying, or like loved ones dying, or like cancer, anything like that, I can't handle it. A lot of times I have to check trigger warnings and stuff to make sure that I'm not going to put that on myself. So I don't have anything crazy sad on my list, which is nice, honestly. It's nice to read as an escape from things like that. But I've had a few books that made me like cry happy tears at the end, or were just like so like moving that they moved me to tears, which I'm just going to be repeating myself again. But like Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, I was crying at the end of that one. Remarkably Bright Creatures, I was crying at the end of that one. A Man Called Ove, just sobbing. I'm pretty sure those are the only ones, and they were all happy, or like happy enough tears. A book that made you happy. Also, all three of those books also really made me happy. When in Rome by Sarah Adams, that one was just such a cutesy, like giggle while you're reading, kick your feet, feel good romance. That one definitely made me happy. The Music of Bees, this is another like general fiction book that was just really wholesome and happy, made me super happy. I loved the characters. Most beautiful book cover of the year. That is hard. I feel like there are so many. Okay, honestly, kind of silly, but I love the new Ice Planet Barbarian covers, like the updated ones. The original ones are atrocious, but I think that the updated ones are like really cool and fun. Practice Makes Perfect has a really, really beautiful cover too. I like that one. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Was that too many tomorrows? That one also has a really, really beautiful cover. And then the last question is books you want to finish by the end of the year. Honestly, so many. I feel like my TBR is just so overwhelming. There are so many books I want to read. This is probably my same answer as last year's mid-year tag, but I want to finish the ACOTAR series. I only have one book left. What is the last one called? Whatever the last one is, that is like Nesta and Cassian's book. That's the only one I have left. And I just hate Nesta's character. I know that everybody says that they like learn to love her in this book, and I'm sure I will get there. It's the longest one and I don't like that character, and so I just have not been pulled towards that one, but I do really want to try to finish that series before the end of the year. I really want to read that new cowboy series I see everybody talking about, Done and Dusted. Like I said, finishing the rest of the Edens series and also the Chestnut Springs series. Oh, I also want to finish the rest of the Lovelight Farms series. I think there's 3 in there. I've only read the first one, but I loved it. So I really want to read the second 2 also, which I'm waiting for on Libby, and then I can knock those out too. But really, just whatever I get to is fine. Those are all of the questions in the tag. Sorry for the chaotic video. Let me know your answers to these questions in the comments below. I love to hear what books you guys are loving and hating and everything like that in the comments. Otherwise, that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Instagram, and I will see you guys all in my next video.